Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. I have an exclusive for you today, a new segment I like to call Inside the Scope, um, where I'll attack different movies and TV shows and break down scenes and characters and different scenarios and what ifs, where we kind of go do a deep analysis of that movie, TV show, or those characters. And today I have a deep analysis, an in-depth analysis of the TV show The Wire. Now, specifically, I have the breakdown of two characters, Omar and Marlo. So Omar is um, kind of the Robin Hood. He was the guy who robbed the drug dealers. And I had Marlo, who was a drug dealer, and he was a young guy new into the game who took over. So just a background on these characters. So you had Omar, who was known around Baltimore for being a thief to these different criminals and using the money to help the everyday citizen and help himself as well. Like I said, he had to get his money as well too, right? So I want to address the situation of Omar and Marlo because we never, as a Wire fan, one thing I do regret that they never did, and I'm not sure why they never gave us this, but they never gave us the standoff we wanted between Omar and Marlo. Like, we didn't even get the standoff between Omar and Avon, but I didn't want to see that much as I wanted to see the Avon or the Omar and Marlo standoff. It started out from a petty place. Of course, Prop Joe set up Omar to rob the card game where Marlo was, and they had this famous confrontation to where Omar was taking Marlo's stuff, and he said, "Hey, man, that's my money." He says, "Money ain't got no owners, only spenders." And then Marlo said, he told Marlo, he said, "Hey, I can find you a lot easier than you can find my people. I mean, I can find your people a lot easier than you can find my people or find me." So it was a classic scene, and from that scene, Marlo never let go of what Omar did because, like I said, he had an ego, a huge ego, to where he was a tough guy and he never wanted to be seen or showed up. There was a one scene, I believe it was season 4, when he went to the store and he stole a lollipop, and the security guy said, "Hey, man, I'm working a job. I'm not stepping to you, but hey, I'm working a job and you can cause me to lose my job." And that guy ended up getting killed because, Marlo felt like he showed him up. So Marlo had an ego. He was very young. He was very immature, so to speak, even though he carried himself mature, but his actions always came from a petty place. No matter what you did, it could be the smallest thing, step on the shoe, he was going to take care of you. So Marlo knew that Omar was from the streets. He knew that Omar, had a lot of experience. He had a lot of age on his side. He knew he had a lot of wisdom. He knew that the Avon Barksdale whole crew was trying to catch Omar and couldn't succeed at it. So Marlo always said, "Hey, I'm not Avon. I'm somebody different. I'm better." But at the end, Omar, I felt like I had to ask myself, was Marlo actually scared of Omar? Because everyone else had to chase Omar, and he always said, I can go toe to toe with anybody, Omar, Barksdale, whoever. But he never made a concerted effort to go find Omar because he could have found Omar if he wanted to. Omar, he was on the streets Omar was on the streets after I forgot his name, but the guy who owned the bar. After he died, that's not Bookie. Well, I forgot his name, it escapes me. But after he died, he went on the streets looking for Marlo, and Marlo was nowhere to be found. He was sending messages to other people saying, "Tell Marlo to come see me," and he never did. So that's why Marlo kind of blew up and said, "My name is my name," when Chris went to him and he found out, Marlo found out that he was calling for him on the streets and nobody told him. So I don't know. From my perspective, I think Marlo was afraid to some degree of Omar because he knew he can go toe to toe with him. He wasn't someone silly and novice. He was somebody experienced, and he had been around the block. He was doing this when Marlo Power was in diapers. So Marlo knew he had a healthy fear for Omar. Even Chris Parlow, I think, to some degree, had a healthy fear of Omar because Marlo, after they took care of Prop Joe and Marlo owned the Connect, Marlo told Chris Parlow, he said, "Hey man, let's go. We got some time in AC, don't we?" And he said, "No, man, we can't move like that. Omar's gonna make a move." So Chris was always focused and knew we had to deal with Omar because he's someone you have to deal with. So that's the matchup I always want to see. Brother Muzone, for example, his confrontation with Omar was classic. When they're in the alley, just staring at each other face to face, guns drawn, was an amazing scene. It was a great TV moment. It might have been one of the best moments in the Wire TV history. Just that moment of them two just standing there in the middle of the alley talking to each other, um, which ultimately the ended up being the end of Stringer's demise on the show. Was great TV. Now, if we saw Omar and Marlo, I can only imagine what that matchup would have been. It would have been probably, no weapons. It would have probably just been face to face, man to man, mano y mano, which I think they robbed us of a good TV moment. And I still want that TV moment, but now it has passed. Unfortunately, um, um, Michael K. Williams is no longer with us. Rest in peace. Um, and everyone else seems to move on from the Wire TV show since it's been since 2008. So we'll never get that matchup. Um, but just thinking about that matchup, my last idea that I was thinking about that show is it kind of tells you about the ego of a man and the pride of a man. Because Marlo, even though he thought that he probably would have a problem dealing with Omar, he still held his shield down. The shield held his guard and was like, "I'll see him when I see him." Even though he had the resources to go find an Omar, and Omar was looking for him, so he didn't have to look far. From Omar's perspective, on the other hand, he was willing to avenge a loss that he had, and he ultimately ended up getting killed by a 10-year-old. But it was the irony of the whole show that all of these guys, big bad guys, tried to get him and they couldn't get him, and this 10-year-old got him, which was it just left me in awe because I never thought that would happen. Watching it from season 1 and then to see him go down to season 5 like that, no one expected that. And from a 10-year-old or a minor, I'm not sure if the guy was 10 or not, but it was just crazy to see that. It just shows you that the streets don't love anyone, and The Wire was a big component of showing you that the streets don't love anyone, and anyone can be your nemesis. So guard yourself accordingly. But that was the first installment of Inside the Scope that I provided. Tell me what you think about the topic. What topics you want to see that will be narrated or discussed with in-deep analysis from Inside the Scope from the Urban Scope podcast. Thanks for watching another video. And then until next time, I'll see you next time.